Hello YouTube, welcome back to a brand new video. This is the America First Pill channel. So I want to discuss a little bit about Trump's address last night um and it had to do with elections. That China that well, we had foreign interference, and that it seems China has been found guilty of interfering with our elections and potentially stealing voter files. Something about like 200 million files were stolen from China, and also bribing U.S. media companies like journalists to talk negatively about Trump. And clearly, if that's the case, then clearly they're still doing it because, well, look, there's nothing positive about Trump if you watch mainstream news. And unfortunately, you're seeing that a little bit on X too, which I think some of it's just it's just profitable to be negative on Trump. But the legacy corporate media, clearly, there's some foreign interference there too. There's others about and other key facts, but that's a big deal, people. And of course, I have feeling that there's definitely more than just this. Of course, this was more focused on mail-in ballots and electronic machines. It seems that was proven too. But so, Trump's trying to pass the SAVE Act, where there would be no, you have to show photo ID, proof of citizenship, and strict mail-in voting only. Only mail-in voting for a very good reason. So, basically, there won't be mass mail-in, universal mail-in, or absentee anymore, unless you have a really valid excuse. And I could say maybe that we could go a little further than that, but it's still more in the right direction. And I think Trump doing this in an attempt to get the SAVE Act to pass. And, if the Dems are still going to say no, then clearly they want to cheat. And they can only do it by cheating. But here's the question. Do Republicans cheat too? Now, there's a lot of I'm going to go backtrack a little bit. There's a lot of conspiracies too. So especially on Israel. Israel's now the fun thing to blame now. I think the problem that I have with this Israel obsession is basically it's like we don't have any other enemies anymore. It's just Israel is the fault at everything. They're pulling every string in the book. And let's be honest, they have a lot of power over America. Anywhere between the government of Israel that connects with Mossad, and I think they control the CIA too, but also just, rich billionaires that have ties to Israel. So they have a lot of money power to buy elections. So, but going back to China, clearly China has every reason to want to interfere in election. They hated Trump because Trump stood up to them. So they have every reason to want Trump gone. And there's a lot of, and I think there's a lot of countries that would love to rig a U.S. election because they have interests. And I actually think we know China has too. But there's three countries that I think are very capable of interfering with an election. China, I'm going to say Iran, and I'm going to also say Israel. There's a good reason. You might even maybe suggest maybe Russia, Saudi Arabia, okay, whatever, probably. Europe, I know, and the EU has reasons to want to too, because there's interest. But I'd say for sure China and probably Israel are the two that would definitely have reasons to rig elections, and I will say Iran as well, because Iran wants to, is anti-West, despite, if you think this war is necessary, they do send a lot of anti-war, West propaganda. People say it's Qatar, which maybe them too, still too, but I'd say for sure Iran. I think Iran does too. So, I heard Saudi Arabia's up there too. If you look at influencing Pat as well, okay, yeah, they do too. Qatar is up there. But, so you could argue, could they all have potential of interfering with an election? Sure. Obviously, China's the most obvious one, and just all the people on the line, the Israel obsessed crowd, they want to pretend, oh, China wouldn't do that suddenly. Some people said China would, and now that they hate Israel so much, oh no, this isn't China. China's buying our farmland, so yes, they do. They want to keep doing so. If they have a candidate, if they have someone that's going to challenge them, even on tariffs, you don't think they're going to try to rig an election to get a puppet in there? Of course they will. I think they probably prefer Democrat candidates and some Republicans, but mostly Democrats. I'd say Dems and neocons. They definitely support, and we know a lot of billionaires willing to follow it because they do business in China, and they were fine working with China to help steal elections too. Now, a lot of people think that this is a psyop. Trump clearly lied to us, anything to distract us, and then you see posts on X that say Democrats say Russia, Trump said the Republicans say China, and but they won't say Israel, right? That basically they say Israel is really the protectors of is really the ones rigging elections. Now, they might too, and I think they have big reasons to want to steal American elections too, because I think my guess is that they won't allow an truly anti-Israel candidate to ever get elected. Doesn't matter if it comes from the left or the right, they will not allow someone, because Israel needs America to basically, as a puppet, to basically accomplish what they want, which is greater Israel. So there's no way, to me, I think you can say that there may not be interference. Now, this was on mail-in ballots. I'd say the fairer elections are, the more you can overcome corruption. But Israel has rigged elections in other countries too. Israel has interfered with elections as well in other countries. So it's kind of interesting. There wasn't much about Israel, which is kind of ripe, but I'm glad that there was mention about China, because China needs to be true about China as well. So, but what do you think? Do you think Israel could be rigging our elections too? I guess I want to make that a question than just my input, but I mean, why would Israel not do that? For those who probably won't agree with me, why do you think that's not the case? I mean, you had a Jewish donor, which was Miriam Edelson, drop like millions of dollars on a congressman just to vote him out, Thomas Massie. I mean, you don't think that's interfering with elections? So maybe Israel, in the sense that there's a lot of donor power, but China is the one really rigging them in the sense of flipping votes and doing those things. I don't know. So I guess the question is, a lot of people are still going to think that our elections are not secure until we're free from Israel. A lot of people think we're basically occupied by Israel. There are people that compare Israel as the New England. We're basically like a occupation of Israel, and they control our politicians. They do. I think it's disingenuous and dishonest to say that that's not the case, because they are. I mean, our government literally just voted to basically merge our military. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck that was all about. You know, there's people that say that this was more to do with certain information, not a full merger, but why would you do that when you don't do that with any other country? Like, I don't understand that. Every Republican voted for that, by the way. Even my senator in Wisconsin, Ron Johnson. Like, what the heck? Like, I don't know if this has anything with being what's your opinion on Israel. How is that appropriate? So, I've supported Trump on getting the SAVE Act passed. Yes, it needs to pass because Democrats still cheat, despite if you think Israel's going to try to rig it other way, probably, who knows, or China. But Dems cheat with mail-in voting. That's what Trump was really talking about too, is mail-in voting. So there's definitely evidence there. And so I think it was overall a good message, but you are going to see the people that blame Israel. Of course, they just can't help themselves, like I said, but it's makes you wonder. For sure. I mean, I think why wouldn't Israel also interfere with our elections? So, a lot of people aren't trusting what Trump was saying. I think I do because I remember 2020. I remember he won on a landslide. He was a big, and I wake up and he suddenly loses the way he did. Look at in California and Los Angeles. They just recently finished counting votes just a few days ago, and the election was like a month ago already. Like, what the heck, people? So, whatever you think on Israel or China or whoever you think, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that our elections are a third world country. Trump's got that right, and that's one thing that's I respect of Trump, and he is passionate about that. And birthright. Now, I've been critical, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily off the Trump train. At least yet I am, but because there's still some areas of light that I agree with them on. But, this war is really for me, it's kind of overshadowing everything because, nobody cares about executive orders. Yeah, they are better than zero only when your party's going to stay in power, but there's no guarantee that. You have to get legislation. Look at Obamacare. Obamacare, yes, sucks, but in order for it to be intact, they had to sign legislation. They did. So if you want Trump's legacy to last for good parts that people can remember, things have to be codified. So hopefully what Trump found forces the SAVE Act to pass. I hope it does. I mean, there's still a problem with integrity with our elections and funny business happening. So, but, who really is there more than just China that's controlling our elections, rigging our election? People think all leaders are installed. You have to wonder sometimes if that's true or not. So I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd give my thoughts on that, but I thought I'm glad there's confirmation, but of course there's going to be, the media didn't want to report that. I heard media really tried hard not to, and I think there were some that just didn't air it for that reason. So that kind of tells you, maybe that proves that there is a foreign operative, right, that doesn't want you to talk about it, and maybe it's China. I don't know. So anyway, if you like this video, please let me know what you think down below. About this. And if you like this channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notification. The America vs. Pill channel out.